What's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk Podcast. We will get Matt Cassel and Phil Perry in just a moment, but as we continue to plow forward with the rehabilitation process of young Mac Jones, the conversation continues as to when Mac will play and whether there's an equation there where Mac Jones will get on the field at less than 100% for a full-go Bailey Zappe. In essence, how much of Mac adds up to one Bailey? Is it 70%, 80%? Do you even get into that math? Here's what Bill Belichick had to say when asked about that on Wednesday. This noise is brought to you by Shaw's. They are perfecting the art of fresh.
Does how Bailey played against the Lions last week, pretty clean game overall, change the timetable for bringing Mac back, maybe afford you a little more lenience on the back end of bringing Mac back?
Totally independent. I don't think, no. Doesn't have anything to do with it.
So there you have it. Bill is not weighing any, okay, if I can get this much out of Mac, then I'll put him in harm's way because he's that close to being all of what Bailey is when Bailey... And it shouldn't be a consideration for Bill Belichick. Look, he's 70 years old. He's got 6 Super Bowls here. He's got 9 total. There is no way in God's green earth that in the 6th game of the season, in 2022, Bill Belichick should entertain the idea of putting a less than 100% young man on the field to play against Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett and the rest of the Cleveland Browns defense. And I don't think Bill operates that way. He stated it. I believe it. Maybe way back in his earlier days when football was a little bit different, he might trot a guy out there who was less than full go and say, yeah, suck it up. I think Bill is far different now than he might have been then. And he's not going to put the kid out there until he's ready to go. And I don't think he's going to guilt trip him into anything, even though Bill wouldn't bite on the conversation as to whether Mac would definitely get his job back when he's good to go. Here's some more noise.
Is Mac the starter when he's ready to go?
We'll see where he is. I don't know.
Which neatly dovetails into even more noise. Check this out from BST the other night. A question was posed by Michael Felger to the Globe's Ben Volin as to whether or not there was any scenario in which Bailey Zappe would retain the starting job even if Mac Jones was full go. This may stun you.
Yes, I do.
Wow.
I think as long as he keeps playing well, and you know what? I think Mac Jones is clearly the more talented quarterback, and he's the leader of the team. That said, what does Belichick value? Not necessarily a quarterback who can win, but a quarterback who won't lose. And Bailey Zappe was clean the other day, 17 of 21, no sacks, kept his wits about him in the pocket, kept his eyes upfield, found all his outlets. It was a very clean performance from Bailey Zappe. If he can keep playing like that, I could see him holding on to the job because he's not going to lose you the game. Mac Jones throwing too many interceptions so far.
Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to engage in those kinds of hypotheticals. In no way should Bailey Zappe be starting instead of Mac Jones. It's been nice. It's been fun. It's been nice and fun. But it's still not a player in Mac Jones who's ripe for the picking. Listen to Dan Orlovsky on WEEI this week talking about what he's seen from Zappe and whether or not that should even be a consideration.
I will be very clear. There is absolutely no shot that Bailey Zappe even sniffs becoming the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots as long as Mac Jones is on the team. That is not a knock to Bailey Zappe, but Mac Jones has the chance to be a very, very good long-term NFL pro, and he's proven it. This is very similar to the Cooper Rush, Dak Prescott conversation in Dallas. So, again, with all due respect to Coach Belichick, when he says some stuff, I don't even pay attention to it because I know he has zero desire to hint at anything related to his actual beliefs.
Enough from everybody else. Let's bring in a quarterback who knows a thing or two about the entire conversation and probably one of the smartest guys in the market. It's the Senator Phil Perry and the quarterback Matt Cassel. Boys. Okay, there they are as advertised. It's Phil Perry. It's Matt Cassel. Matt, go to you because you've been a quarterback in the league. We've heard Bill Belichick in the past give myriad votes of confidence to Cam Newton. We've heard him refer to Tom Brady when he came back from his suspension saying, yeah, he's going to be our starter, okay? People understand that. He's resisted that with Mac. Do you think Mac needs to hear that?
Well, I think it's a little bit different situation when it comes to Mac Jones and what he's going through right now because he's an injury. And as you well know, with Coach Belichick, it's usually he's never transparent about injuries. He's always trying to play that mind game with the opposing team, whether or not Mac's going to play, whether it's going to be Bailey Zappe. Hopefully they prepare for both. Maybe that jumbles their thought process of what the game plan is going to be. So it's more of a chess match. But we all know that Mac Jones, once he's healthy and once he's able, he's going to be the guy. I just don't think that Bill Belichick right now is ready to just say Mac Jones is going to be our starter. He is the starter when he's healthy, but he's not going to do that right now. He's playing the chess match.
I agree. I think this is because of the injury, Tom. It's a little different situation than it was with Cam Newton through that 2020 season or even into 2021. Cam's our quarterback. Cam's our quarterback. Cam's our quarterback. Or Tom Brady back in 2014, where the Patriots have that meltdown against the Chiefs. And our buddy Mike Giardi asked if the quarterback position is going to be reevaluated in the coming week. And he just scoffed in Giardi's direction. And so I think the injury changes the equation here. And for Bill Belichick, there really is no conversation until the player's cleared. And that's why he always says, I don't want to get into hypotheticals. I'm not going to dream up scenarios and go over them with you guys right now. But I do also look at it, Tom, and I wonder if there is any at all motivational decision here at play by Bill Belichick. Because I do think with somebody like Cam Newton, he probably felt Newton needed to hear that from
As a
him.
1-year contract guy. Yep.
Right.
Well, and just to be playing at his best and to get the most out of him. With Mac Jones, he probably looks at Mac Jones's career and says, this guy's been a backup. He's been chasing a starting job his entire life, practically to this point. This is really the first year he's come into the season as the known starting quarterback. And so maybe there is something motivational at play for Bill Belichick here.
One theory I have too on the Mac Jones situation is it's again another effort by Bill to send a message to the entire team. Look, everybody knows that this first round quarterback from Alabama, who was almost the offensive rookie of the year last year, is probably going to be the starter when he comes back. But if I don't say that, it shows everybody that all jobs are tenuous. Let's skip off of that, Matt, though, and get to this whole health equation where people are engaging in, okay, if Mac's 80 and Bailey Zappe is 97, then do we have enough weight? And Bill basically said they're independent of each other. Speaking about the health equation, do teams engage in that a little bit? Like, hey, I know you're at 80%, but the other guy stinks, so you got to get back. Or is it truly independent when the team speaks to you?
It's independent for every guy. And I think that the evaluation's ongoing with the training staff, with the coaches, as he gets out there, as he's doing drills. When you see him out on the field, that's the biggest telltale sign of whether or not a guy is able to go. If he can get through the drills, if he can move at a good rate and he can get himself out of trouble in the pocket, if he can follow through on his throws, all those things come into play because, again, mentally he's there. It's more the physical aspect of, are we going to put him out there and feed him to the wolves where he can't get himself out of trouble and then we further risk injury. It's a long season. They want him to come back, and once he hits the ground running again, to be able to have a sustained period of time and hopefully in which he doesn't get hurt and he's able to play but not be hindered by that ankle. So, I mean, it's constant conversation with the coaches and everybody else that's involved in making that decision. But ultimately, it does come down to Bill Belichick and the training staff to say whether or not some guy's ready to go.
Yeah, I think they'll test it, right, Tom? We saw him actually early in Wednesday's practice, actually attempt and complete a rollout throw during quarterback warmups. That's something we hadn't seen over the course of the last 2 weeks. May not sound like much, but he did look significantly improved early this week versus what we saw in the last couple of weeks since he sustained that injury. But you can only test it out if he's actually getting a legitimate and a significant complement of reps at practice. If what we're seeing from him is close to all he's doing during that day's work on the practice fields behind Gillette Stadium, then I think it's going to be almost impossible to make that percentage type of call and therefore make a call on whether or not he should actually be playing. How many reps he gets in practice means a ton.
Right.
I wonder if game time decision is something that he'll even be this week still. I still think he might be a week away because if he's just doing cameos at practice, which is what my understanding was on Wednesday, and we'll see what happens Thursday. But if he's just doing cameos at practice, then he's not able to drop back, do drills. Matt, as a quarterback, can you take us into occasions when you've had limb injuries and how the training staff and the coaching staff would observe you? What did they put you through? Did they put you through something extreme and say, okay, well, if you can't do that, or do they try and go easy? And how's it work?
Well, right. I mean, it's really throughout the course of a week, and I've had low ankle sprains. I've never had a high ankle sprain. I had an MCL before where I was a game time decision when I was with the Kansas City Chiefs against the Ravens, and I went out for pregame warm up, and it was one of those things where it was really hard for me to even get through the week of practice. But we went out and did drills prior to the game, and everybody made the decision, including myself, that I was going to put myself at risk and maybe further injure myself because I just could not move appropriately in the pocket and follow through and do all the things that I needed to do that I felt like in order to play the position at a high level. So they're always doing that, but that's where it becomes very complicated because with Mac Jones and Bailey Zappe, who's a young guy who you want to get more reps, if he's going to be the guy playing, how do you split those reps up? Now, it's got to start early in the week. On Tuesday, he's probably been out there at the facility. They're going through drills, doing stuff on the field, seeing where he's at. If Wednesday he goes out through individual drills and starts to make some progress, they might up his reps. But as you get further along in the week, it becomes a lot more difficult to split reps with two guys, especially if you really don't know whether or not Mac Jones is able to go. You have to kind of commit to that early on in the week so that you can get Bailey Zappe the appropriate amount of reps with the guys and get the game plan installed for him. And so that he doesn't, have any issues running the team that week.
Plus, the guy's been down for 3 weeks, Phil. I mean, he hasn't played, so it's a little rusty. He has to knock off. So if he's not running around, I mean, it feels like a very Zappe Sunday.
Yeah, it feels that way, at least right now, until, as you said, we maybe hear more from practice on Thursday and Friday, and maybe he is out there getting some actual work in. But I think, listen, the opponent here matters too. And I don't know this, but if I was Bill Belichick, that would be a factor in my decision. If I'm looking at the Browns and I'm saying to myself, wait a minute, these guys allow 5.3 yards per carry. They're one of the worst rushing defenses in football, and we have maybe the best rushing attack in all of the NFL right now. Why are we rushing this guy back again? If he can't practice, and if there is any sort of hurdle there physically still with the ankle, let's give it another week. And I would be okay if that was part of the decision. He's telling us, it sounds like at least, he's either healthy or he's not, and we make our decision from there. I would factor in something like the opponent because I think the Patriots will be able to score, whether it's Mac Jones behind center or Bailey Zappe.
Matt, do players have greater latitude now than you were in the game? And it's not even that long ago, but do they have greater latitude now to say, hey, I'm a no-go. Hey, this doesn't feel right.
I mean, it's dependent on the player. There's guys that are altered.
Culturally, have you sensed a shift?
There's been a shift for sure. I mean, I think old school mentality was if you're hurt but you can go, you're going to go, and that's just how it's going to be. And the trainers kind of would let you go, do your thing. And there's certain guys that they had more leverage to say that, and they respected because the guys like Brett Favre, right? Tom Brady was banged up a number of different times where we didn't think he was going to go. He didn't need all the reps during the week. But now in this very health conscious world that we live in, whether it's concussion, whether it's ankle, you can get a bunch of different opinions from a lot of different doctors. You can see different trainers. And so there's a lot of different moving parts in order for players to say, well, whether or not they're healthy or whether or not they can go. And sometimes it's not just based on what your team says, what your team doctor or the trainers, it's an outside opinion in which you factor in and can ultimately lead to your decision of whether or not you want to play.
And Tom, I think Mac Jones probably falls into the category of having that old school kind of approach.
Mm-hmm.
He feels as though if he can walk, he should be out there and playing. So if this is going to come down to him, I think he's going to be out there. But it's just a matter of what does the training staff see? What does the coaching staff see? How do they gauge his abilities for this coming Sunday against the Browns? But I think if it were up to him, he'd be out there. And
it certainly trends that way. That's why, again, as I was saying last night on Early Edition, it is incumbent on players to be their own best advocates when it does come to health and safety, because when the heat comes down, if a player does get injured, if Mac Jones plays Sunday and he can't escape a rush or twist his ankle and he's gone. The blame won't lie with the player who said, yeah, I was good to go. I felt great. I got to get out there. The blame will go on the training staff and the team for not stopping the player. And I keep feeling like they are the first line of defense to be open and honest. But that is a conversation we will continue to have. Let's get into the conversation about the Cleveland Browns after the break. Welcome back in, everybody. Now, Bill Belichick is known to conflate, shall we say, the opponents. And this week is no exception. The 2-3 Cleveland Browns, well, he got to praising everybody. Back to Eric Metcalf, Brian Sipe, Otto Graham, you name it. They all got a hat tip this week. Check out Bill talking Browns talk.
It looks pretty similar. I'd say they're faster on special teams, if that's possible. They may have a lot of fast guys. Look fast on special teams. Defensively, again, they're very explosive, very fast, very disruptive. Offensively, they led the league in rushing last year. They lead the league in rushing this year. They have explosive receivers. They still have explosive receivers. I mean, it's pretty. They've been in some close games. They've won some. They've lost some. I think that's kind of nature of this league. They could easily be 5-0. So I think when you look at the explosive, and honestly, we can't worry about what their record is, whether it's 2-3, 5-0, 0-5. Doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is what happens this week, and so that's what I see. I see a very fast defense. I see a very explosive, hard-running offense. I see a kicking game with a couple of big leg kickers, an explosive returner, a lot of fast players that can cover. So that's generally what we have to prepare for.
All right, that's some heady praise. Let's get into this matchup with Phil and Matt right now. Phil, Bill, bananas, Browns, loves them.
Loves him, and he loves himself some Nick Chubb. And I get it. Nick Chubb is one of the best players in football at his position. He can run through you. He can run by you. He's just such a special talent, and they have some depth there in Kareem Hunt to be able to spell Chubb and keep him fresh. And that offensive line, Belichick mentioned it many times in that press conference on Wednesday. Bill Callahan, maybe the best offensive line coach in all of football. And maybe since Dante Scarnecchia retired, maybe he's held that mantle and kept it because he's just that good. They're so fundamentally sound. They have some big, powerful guys up front. So they really, obviously, with Deshaun Watson not playing and you have Jacoby Brissett back there, they really rely on that run game. So, Matt, to me, this is a little bit of a similar matchup to what the Patriots saw last week with Detroit. Detroit wanted to hammer you with the run. They were one of the best rushing offenses coming into Week 5 when they came to Gillette Stadium. So it wouldn't stun me if in some ways the game plan defensively mimicked what we saw when the Patriots saw Detroit.
100%. First and foremost, this defense is going to have to step up and bow up against the run because they run the ball. Nick Chubb is the leading rusher in the league right now. And then, like you said, they've got Kareem Hunt, who's a quality back as well. And everything goes through that run game. They love to play action. They love to boot. They'll use the screen game. And so they have a lot of versatility on that offensive side of the ball and what they do. And they give you a bunch of different looks in terms of the run. But it is a traditional sense of the run game. It's inside zone. It's power. It's outside zone. It's those type of things that are going to challenge this defense. And if you can't stop the run on first and second down, it becomes a lot more challenging because that sets up everything that they do offensively in terms of play action and drop back.
And one thing I just found interesting this week in the Patriots locker room, talking to some of their front seven defenders, this is another team that comes from that Shanahan style tree, right? Kevin Stefanski was in Minnesota with Gary Kubiak, who was Mike Shanahan's right-hand man for a long time. So you do get a lot of the power looks that Matt was talking about, but really their foundation has been the zone running scheme. Now, this is how many weeks that they've seen this be a core piece of what the opposition is doing. Miami in week 1, Green Bay in week 4. Last week, the Lions ran a lot of wide zone. And some of these defenders for the Patriots, Tom, have told me the more you see that, the more accustomed you get to playing that style of running game. And the better you get at it because you're just so used to playing that cat and mouse game with the running back, or you get so used to slowing down offensive linemen who are dying to get to the second level to wipe out linebackers. Those are the kinds of little nuances of playing against that kind of scheme that just come with time. And so this is another week they'll see that similar kind of scheme.
I think it's going to shape up then to being a run-heavy game, as we presumed last week, and the Lions were dying to make it a run-heavy game before things got out of hand. But the Patriots are most likely going to try and do the same thing because, as you pointed out earlier this week, Phil, the Browns have the same issues stopping the run that the Lions did. The factor that the Patriots have to weigh here is that Rhamondre Stevenson is the lead back and the sole lead back. No Damien Harris because of the hamstring injury. How much is too much work, Matt Cassel, for a running back in 2022? No one would have thought twice about handing a ball to a guy who weighs 230 pounds 25 times a game back 10, 12 years ago. I mean, Corey Dillon was here when you were a rookie. So
right.
Should we bat our eyes at a guy being a bell cow like they used to be?
No, he's going to be the bell cow. There's no doubt about it, especially because the lack of depth behind him right now. With Damien Harris being out, you know that he's going to be the focal point of this offensive game plan and also the run game. He's good on third down, so he's got that versatility that he has coming out of the backfield and also being a guy that can help out in the pass game. He's good in pass protection as well, so he's a guy that you want on the field. But how much is too much is the question that you have to ask yourself, because at some point – those hits start to add up. And also you want to keep those guys fresh. So in the fourth quarter, and a lot of these games that the Browns have played this year have been won or lost in that fourth quarter. They've lost 3 games in the fourth quarter alone. It's going to be really important for them to have some depth there that they can spill him, give him a little bit of rest. But overall, I see him being in for a large majority of this game.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's going to be Pierre Strong who necessarily just helps spell him on those early downs. To me, he looks like a sub back when he has been active this year. You know, they've really just used him in the kicking game. He's still pretty slight. He's extremely fast. So to me, he just looks like a third down back. Now, I'm going to speak out of both sides of my mouth here because my suggestion for the Patriots would be to bring on up J.J. Taylor from the practice squad and help him spell Rhamondre Stevenson. But Tom, he doesn't necessarily look like an early down back either. He's a very small guy in terms of his stature. But he is effective in the times that we've seen him.
He is
running between the tackles, hiding behind some of these linemen and creating productive runs that way.
He's Dion Lewis and Danny Woodhead style build, more squat and low to the ground than Pierre Strong, who we've seen is a little more narrow. You know, Ty Montgomery is jacked now, but I would imagine when Ty Montgomery came into the league, at his build as a wide receiver initially was probably more lean. He's added size. Pierre Strong, I don't think, is quite as stout as J.J. Taylor. And to me, we've seen enough of J.J. Taylor in the 3 years he's been kicking around to say he makes people miss. He catches the ball. I'd love to see him get an opportunity just to establish why he isn't getting an opportunity, because to the layperson, I think, out there, we're all looking and saying, why not the little fella? The little fella.
Give the little fella an opportunity.
This is important too, guys, right? Because Rhamondre Stevenson, I think, has proven he can be so important to this offense down the stretch that even though you're thin there right now, and maybe you'd love to give him 25 or 30 carries because that's your best chance to win this week, if that adds up over the course of time and you end up having a lesser Rhamondre Stevenson weeks 16, 17, 18, that to me is a little short-sighted. So even though he looks like the only option right now and it looks like a great matchup, I still wouldn't necessarily want to overwork him. I think he's that important to their success down the stretch this year.
Steven Jackson would be handy right now, right, Matt?
Oh, good old Steven Jackson. All 240 of them. That guy was a stud.
He was a good dude. He was here. He was watched, but he was a good dude when he was here. All right, fellas, let's distill this. Not asking for predictions, just asking for, should a Patriots team led by Bailey Zappe against Jacoby Brissett be able to go into, not be able to, should they go into Cleveland and win the football game and get to 3-3?
I believe that they should go into Cleveland and be able to beat this team. I mean, I just think that the way in which they're playing right now, defensively, offensively, they've got some confidence going here after last week. And look, it's still the Cleveland Browns. They're a struggling football team. They're 2-3, and on paper, they look very talented, but they haven't been able to put it together, particularly in the fourth quarter of the game. As long as the Patriots go out and take care of the football once again offensively, I think that they're going to be able to get the run game going, and I believe that the defense will be able to figure out how to stop them like they did last year when Cleveland came to town.
I agree with Matt. I think the Patriots should win this game. It has been interesting to me to talk to some folks around the league who have been a little higher on Jacoby Brissett and how he's played this year than I anticipated they would. You know, he's been a little bit more efficient than I think they anticipated. But it always comes with a big old but, which is he could make a mistake at the end of a game that absolutely blows it for him. It's already happened a couple times. I spoke to one person who thinks that maybe he lost track of the down and distance in the game in Atlanta, which essentially lost them the game. So he hasn't been awful, Jacoby Brissett, old buddy Jacoby Brissett, but he might be the guy who eventually loses it for them. I think the Patriots will try to put it in his hands and they'll be okay for that.
So much to like about Jacoby Brissett, but he is in that bucket of, Baker Mayfield, his predecessor, and so many other guys. There's skills to like about Jacoby. He's got a weapon hanging from his arm. He can throw it. He's big. He's a good leader. Guys, I think, gravitate toward him. But if you look at the numbers over Jacoby Brissett's career, the sack numbers, you can see that once the wheels start turning back there, things get difficult for him as to what he wants to do with the football. So I would imagine the Patriots are going to try and confuse him. But I'm still going to say, even though I got blasted last week by a 29-0 loss after I said the Lions would win 24-19, I'm probably going to ride with the Browns again this week. Yeah.
Ooh, let's see it. Let's see it.
All right, back to me. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you Sunday, pregame live, right before Patriots-Browns. Phil will be in Cleveland. I'll be in studio in Cassel. Well, he'll be joining us as well. So will many, many, many others. Take care. See you then.